Children come into this world kind of unaware of what's expected of them. They just come, they do what they like, they do what they feel inclined to do, and there's no like social expectations. They cry when they're sad, they scream when they're angry, they let us know when they're hungry or sleepy, and they don't feel like maybe my mom doesn't want to feed me right now. Maybe this is not the right time to be angry. They just totally do what their instinct tells them to do. And they're also so clear usually in what brings them joy and what really lights them up. And they can spend hours just lost in play, just like finding something random in the streets and be fascinated by it for hours and just do the same game over and over again and just be endlessly entertained by it. And at some point when we grow up, we lose a little bit of both of that. We lose that part of us that's not so self-aware, and we also lose that connection to what brings us joy. Now, obviously, that's not the case for everyone, but in general, being an adult means a lot more serious time and a lot more time spent being productive or doing things for others or doing things that we feel like we have to do. And making time for fun, for joyous things is a conscious effort. If you feel that recently you haven't really been able to connect to that true joy, or if you find yourself being very caught up in your to-do list and the things that you have to do and the things you do for others, or the things that are just part of daily life, and you don't really find the time to have fun, just have pure fun, then this might be for you. As a child grows up, they become more and more aware of what's expected of them. They copy their parents' behavior, they copy their friends in school, and they also kind of learn that certain hobbies they really enjoyed maybe aren't as cool, aren't as accepted by others. And we really take that in because it's so part of our nature to blend in, to belong to a group. And sometimes to belong to a group, we're willing to give up a little part of ourselves, even if that part gives us a lot of joy. And then as we get older, there's more and more that's expected of us. We're maybe expected to go to school, to study, to have a certain job. In our workplaces, there's a certain type of behavior that's expected of us. And we're supposed to do certain things like pay our taxes and clean our house and make sure that we go places where we're clean and put together. And so as our responsibilities grow and the expectations of others on us, it can be so important to connect back to who you were as a child. What were the things you enjoyed doing when nobody told you what to do, when you just naturally did certain things because they felt so right to you? What were the character traits that you always naturally had and that maybe you don't see as much in yourself anymore right now? Really try and see if you can go to as young as possible, because that's when you had the least amount of outside pressure and expectations put on you. What were the things you were naturally drawn towards? Were you a child that was always in nature? Were you just a naturally curious kind that would always talk to people in the streets? Were you really creative and liked to draw? Or were you always fascinated by science? There's so many different kinds of children and there's so many different kinds of people, and their interests are all different. And so finding what brings you specifically a lot of joy is such a powerful thing. Now, it might feel a little bit silly to go back to your childhood activities. You might feel like you've evolved from that, you have different hobbies now, and that's great. You can, of course, have different kinds of hobbies too. But in essence, we don't really change that much. We still kind of have that child part of us in us somewhere, and you might be surprised to see how much you still enjoy doing those activities. It might give you back that part of yourself that you always were before the world told you who to be. So as silly as it may sound, I would really like to invite you to think back of a childhood activity that you enjoyed and just start doing that. And it might feel really uncomfortable at first, so I really challenge you to stick with it for a certain amount of time and allow yourself to move through that discomfort and see what you found so enjoyable about it in the first place and how does that feel right now. Can you connect to that part of you that's truly you at the core? Now, if you have children, it might be really fun to do that with your children and to find the joy in parenting that you also had in your own childhood and see if maybe your child enjoys that as well. Obviously, don't force anything on them, but it might be a wonderful way to not only connect with that child part of yourself, but then also with the child that you're raising, and connect in that activity together and show your child a really true part of you. Alternatively, you could also see if you could join a group of other adults that are really interested in this hobby, and you can do it together and really share the experience of joy. And that might also help you with that period of discomfort where you might feel like it's silly, like it's pointless, like there's no use in doing that. So finding that community can be really helpful, and it might just multiply your joy doing your favorite activity, your favorite childhood activity with other people.